Thank you. Before I begin my remarks, I just want to associate myself with the remarks of the chair of the Judiciary Committee about the nominee. Everything he said is true. I share his horror at the vilification of him, which I do believe is based on his faith. I think he would be an outstanding member of the federal court. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your defense on behalf of an excellent nominee. Mr. President, I'm here to talk about the post office and the frustration we're having in Vermont with the management of the post office, starting with Mr. DeJoy, our Postmaster General, in his total disregard for what is happening to our postal service in Vermont. And let me start by saying what the specific incident is that is just baffling to Senator Sanders, to Congresswoman Ballant, to Governor Scott and me. We had a flood in July. The Postal Service, the postal building in Montpelier was flooded and damaged, and it's not going to be open for years. We've got to get another location for our post office. That was July. It's March now. We have no new postal service, no new postal building. The workers who we are absolutely indebted to, the postal workers, they're fantastic throughout the state of Vermont. They work under very difficult circumstances. They're understaffed, they're overworked, and they do everything they can to get the mail delivered. So they are doing what they can, but they don't have a place for postal boxes. They don't have a place where they can sort the mail. They don't have a place, actually, Montpelier residents and businesses don't have a postal service they can come to pick up their mail. And it's going on and on and on. And despite the efforts of Governor Scott, who's made suggestions on where we could put a replacement location, despite the entreaties of Senator Sanders and Congresswoman Ballant and me, we get literally no response. And that's the part that is so astonishing to me. We try to get a meeting with Postmaster General DeJoy. We send letters, we make phone calls, and there is no response. Montpelier right now has the distinction of being the only capital city in the country that doesn't have a post office. We don't have a McDonald's either. We're okay with that, but we're not okay with not having a post office where people can pick up their medications, their Social Security checks, where businesses can drop off their mail going out to customers. And what is so aggravating to all of us is there's no response from the management. That's their job. They just blow us off. And can you imagine what it's like if you're a citizen and you're trying to get some response on the basic right that you have to get your mail on time, the basic right and confidence you should have that you'll get your prescription medication on time, when not only do they get ignored when they're making a reasonable request, hey, where's our post office, the members of Congress don't even get a response. And you know, for a while I thought maybe DeJoy doesn't like me, he doesn't like Sanders, he doesn't like Ballant, maybe he doesn't like our governor. But you know what? That's not what it's about. I wish it was personal. But what I'm finding out from talking to my colleagues is that this problem of postal mismanagement and disregard for the legitimate concerns of our citizens is widespread. So, for instance, in Tennessee, my colleague, former colleague in the House, Tim Burchett, he's trying to figure out how to get stuff delivered. His folks need the medications. They need the checks, the Social Security checks. He tried to get the Postal Service to respond. I'm talking again, the management, because Tim, like me, is really admiring of the work of the postal workers. They were concerned he couldn't get a meeting. Finally, the Postal Service sent some people a couple hundred miles to his district. They sat there for 15 minutes and made no response whatsoever to the entreaties of the people who had asked for that meeting. And then they vanished. No response, no action. My colleague, Senator Smith in Minnesota, there's a rural post office there where people have been told to prioritize the delivery of Amazon packages. That's a private company having the Postal Service do the last bit of work to get that package to the home, but prioritize that for Amazon over the delivery of everyday mail for people who are citizens of that small town. And then in Colorado, small ski towns in Colorado are waiting weeks or months at a time to get their mail. The Wall Street Journal did a story about this, Mr. President, and I want to quote it. A citizen there said, hey, Christmas cards began arriving in February. But that's not what's not funny at all. He was kind of philosophical about it, is that driver's licenses, disability payments, election ballots, and prescriptions were not arriving for months as well. I mean, this is the United States of America. The Postal Service is older than the Constitution itself. The original infrastructure that we began building were roads to connect one postal service to another. That's what it was about. And it's getting wrecked. And the wreckage by Postmaster General DeJoy is reflected in his unresponsive attitude towards everyday Americans in every district of this country. And it's got to end. There's independence with the Postal Service. That's to avoid congressional meddling. But you know what? Is it congressional meddling when we're sticking up for the businesses in our communities, for the senior citizens in our communities, for the kids who in fact do like getting cards from their grandfather and their grandmother? No, I don't think that's meddling. That's demanding service. What is unacceptable is a postal management service that won't even pick up the phone and meet with members of Congress on behalf of their citizens, or more importantly, get the job done on behalf of all the people we represent. Mr. President, I yield back.